when we start a new venture, we can be really gung-ho and throw ourselves into it. And then later on, we get into it and realize, oh my gosh, this is so much harder than I expected. How could I have been so naive? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 things that I feel like I was naive about in making my move to France. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you're new here, welcome, and consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that each time I upload a video about moving abroad, life in France, or finding the confidence and courage to live life on your terms, you will be notified. My name is Patricia Brooks, and I quit my job in 2018, and I moved to the south of France. And while I feel like I was pretty prepared for this move and for a smooth transition, there are 4 things that I'd like to share with you that I feel like I could have done better with. And so the first one has to do with culture. And I will say that if you are a Francophile, if you are planning to move to France, or if you're a file of the country that you are looking to move to, you might not have the same challenge I did with this first one. So the first one is not understanding French history. I did not study French history in school at all. And I didn't want to. I didn't care about French history. It didn't matter to me. But now that I'm here, I realize how much not knowing French history disconnects me from the community around me and from the people who have grown up learning and knowing the history. I feel like that has really, in some ways, alienated me. And so what I've done, I am currently listening to a book on tape. Actually, it's a series of lectures by the great courses called The French Revolution. And it is so insightful. First of all, it's really interesting. And I think that has to do with the fact that, well, I'm now living in France, and it matters that I have this kind of base knowledge. But second of all, I get a better sense of French people and why they do some of the things they do. You know, why do French people protest so much? You know, well, it's their right, and it comes from their history. And so knowing that kind of helps me understand and feel more connected. So that's the first one. Not having a good grasp of French history was something that I didn't think really mattered. And in learning more, I realized how much it does. So another way that I feel like I was naive was in dating. You know, I just thought that dating a French guy would be much like dating an American guy. A guy's a guy, right? Well, what I failed to bring to the equation was that, once again, there is that country history as well as family history that informs how somebody shows up and relates in relationships, and that those divides can be wide and can pose really big challenges to communication and having a good relationship. I'm currently reading the book, The Culture Map, and it's been really insightful. It explains how the United States, being a younger country with a more diverse background and population, we tend to explain things in more detail. You know, we tend to leave less to be lost in translation, whereas cultures that are older and have this history that I'm talking about, this really entrenched history, less explanation may be needed or may be expected. And so just even knowing that and coming into a relationship, sharing that, hey, this is how I communicate, could really go a long way to having a better relationship. So that is another place where I feel like I was a little bit unprepared. Have you ever experienced a miscommunication because of a cultural difference, give this video a thumbs up if you have. Now, the third way that I was unprepared or a little bit naive was in thinking that I could have a good base of the French language and even call myself fluent and feel like I had done what was necessary to master the French language. That is not the case. Recently, I took a night train and I had two roommates, and one of them was Belgian and the other one was French, and we had a great conversation. And I was speaking to the Belgian woman and I said something along the lines of le plus que j'apprends le français, le plus que je réalise que je ne comprends pas. Something like that. And she corrected me, which was great because if I'm making a mistake, I want to know. She's like, no, it's plus que j'apprends le français, plus que je réalise que je ne comprends pas. That was something that, I thought, oh, it's the same as it is in English, but it's not. The more I learn French, the more I realize I don't understand. Does it directly translate? You drop the article, which, I didn't know. It was something I learned. But as I was feeling really good about my language skills, I was like, oh, I have so much to learn. So just feeling like, oh, I've gotten to a certain level, I'm good, or it's good enough, at least in my eyes, I realized that, yeah, I still have a ways to go and I'm willing to do what I need to get there. But it was a little naive to think that I could master French in 5 years. All right. And the final thing was not anything that I could have prepared for because I didn't even know that this would be a thing. And that is that when I first moved to France, my first year in Perpignan, I experienced this thing that I didn't know would happen. And that was I was anonymous. I could walk through the streets of Perpignan and nobody would know me. Nobody would be calling out my name because they knew me. And I had this feeling of freedom, of being able to be myself. And that was a part of my desire to live in a foreign country so that I could feel free to be me. But I didn't anticipate it at that level. And so that was great. Well, a couple of years ago, I lost that anonymity, and which is a good thing because that means that people know me, people in the community know me, and they're calling out my name to say hi to me, which is wonderful. But the challenge or the problem was that, a couple of times I have been walking down the street oblivious to the fact that somebody is trying to get my attention. Somebody I know is trying to get my attention because I still had this feeling of being anonymous. And this happened, I don't know, the last time it happened was about 12 months ago, which is quite recent. So now I recognize that if I hear my name called in the street, either as Patricia or Patricia, I should stop and turn to see if that person is trying to get my attention. So as I said, this is not anything that I could have ever prepared for, but it was something that I was naive about in the fact that thinking that it would last forever. So those are 4 things that I was not as prepared for as I thought I was. Which of those surprises you the most? Let me know in the comments. Now, you may be considering a move abroad and you may be concerned with all that you have to plan and prepare for, including becoming culturally adept. Well, if you are a little bit concerned about that and would like to have a conversation with me to see what ways you might be able to move through that more easily, and if working with me might help you get there, then let's have a conversation. I'm going to put a link to my calendar in the description where you can find a time for us to talk, and we can see where you are, where you want to be, what might be holding you back, and go from there. That is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe. I want to thank you so much for watching to the end, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.